Hi everybody and welcome to HUBCP's Lounge. Now today we have got a really special treat for you because we've got Paul Richardson, a serial entrepreneur who's built and exited a number of businesses and is currently the executive chairman of a brand we all know, Gymshark. So without further ado, I cannot wait to bring in Paul Richardson from Gymshark. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to join you. Thanks.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, well, okay, you look very much on brand today, Paul. The offices look great, lovely chair, really nice t-shirt you're wearing that, looking very, very Gymsharky.
Yeah, we try our best. I mean, even though I'm slightly older than our demographic, well, a good bit older than our demographic, I'm still allowed to wear the stuff inside the office.
So, Paul, Gymshark is obviously a brand that is everywhere at the moment, incredibly popular. It's an incredible story. So today it'd be really good to obviously hear about how Gymshark has become the company that it has. But more interesting at the moment is focusing on your own entrepreneurial journey. My understanding is that you've built and exited a number of businesses in a whole different array of different sectors. Can you just give us a brief understanding, an outline of your own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. Obviously, my career goes back a long time. I mean, I'm 61 as at the moment, going towards 62. My first sort of foray into business was waste management and recycling, and I was in that for many, many years. From the age of around 18, I literally couldn't wait to leave school to get to work, and sort of joined in with my father's business. Even though it was my father's business, I was a shareholder at 18. Exited that business in 1989 before maybe some of the people that maybe will listen to this were born. And then just moved forward to waste companies through to 2000. I'm not sure how much detail you want because I could ramble for a long time.
The thing is, Paul, we've got some great time with you. So, to get the context, would be fantastic. So take your time, enjoy it.
So we built that first company up from 1989, into 1989 when we sold it. So we sold it in 1989 to the second largest waste management company in the world. And at that point, I thought I was just under 30. Wow, these are American guys. The world is my oyster. They talked a great game, and I'm going to be taken all over the world with them, and they promised me all sorts of things. But the reality was that, they although they were the second biggest in the world, the promises they made me, just didn't come true, and my sort of dreams were quite shattered. So I did my 36 months on my restrictive covenant, and then I started again. So I then started off to build a waste company. My father had passed away when I was about 30, and started off doing it on my own, and with all the stuff that he'd taught me, and all over those many years, and I built up the largest regional waste management company in the country, and I then sold it back to them in the year 2000. So which was quite bittersweet. For a few pounds, which was nice. And then I had a sort of dream at that time where I got everything was in one basket, all my eggs were in one basket, and I wanted to sort of diversify into other things. I just thought there was other things that I could do, and I wanted to do. So I sort of started up a few different companies and did a few different things. So some connected to waste, so special waste management. I was decommissioning garage forecourts, collecting waste oil, and then we were building waste trucks. So all connected, but I was still, it wasn't in one area, and that was good. And then along those lines, when I was doing that, came along two things, which was Birmingham City Football Club, and I was asked to join the board of Birmingham City around the year sort of 2001, and I joined with David Sullivan, David Gold, and Karen Brady, and fantastic.
Wow, those are three household names there. I mean, that in itself must have been an incredible experience.
Yeah. I mean, I was a lifelong blues fan, so
Yeah.
we asked to go on to the board and to buy into that company as a PLC company. But then not just to go onto the normal board, I was asked to go onto the PLC. So it was even a higher accolade for me to do that. So it was a pleasure. I travelled around the country to all the different Premiership grounds and met all different people like Bobby Charlton, who is one of my heroes. Different footballers, Sven-Goran Eriksson, and just anyone connected with football. It was an absolute dream of an experience to be involved with it. And initially, I was brought on when we were in the what is now the Championship, and I was only there 6 months. And the idea was, David, they're basically London porn barons, and they were quite misunderstood as businessmen. But probably David Sullivan is probably one of the best businessmen that I've ever met in terms of switched on.
Why is that, Paul? That's a big statement. What is it?
So his brain was so tuned in that a player would get injured and would get put onto a stretcher or would be taken off. He would instantly say, we sat together a lot of the time, he would say to me, he was going to be off for 3 weeks. That's going to cost us this amount in wages, this amount in this. So that injury is just going to cost us, £200,000. And that was before the player had got to the tunnel. So, yeah, so just switched on, and you wouldn't dream of it if you from the outside with these porn businesses and things that they do. So I was brought on as the local guy to really help them get some local profile. And of course, then we within 6 months, we went into Premiership. And then it was just a lot easier for me then to bring on local businesses to help out with, any sponsorship and things like that, and get them more acclimatized in the business.
And Paul, you're a Birmingham City supporter. You're a lifelong Birmingham City supporter, right?
Yeah, still am, yeah.
And so nothing's changed there. What is it like? Because I'm a Leicester City supporter, and I can have the disappointment of a loss on a Saturday or a Sunday or midweek, whatever, and forget about it pretty quickly until the next game. What's it like when you're a fan, but also you're really involved in the kind of running of the club? What is that like?
It takes on a different level, because obviously from a normal fan, when you don't really know what's going on with a club, it's always, I'll buy some new players, do this, do that, the manager's an idiot, whatever that might be, the players aren't doing this, that and the other. As a business, when the guys are there and you've got everything to pay and everything has to sort of balance if you possibly can. And to be fair, the guys, David and Karen, it always had to balance. It always has to be sensible within business. They would always loan the Birmingham City Football Club money without an issue if there was a player they wanted, but they always wanted to know that they could get it back. And it was got back at, it wasn't punitive in any way, shape or form. But yeah, you just understand other things, and you can never satisfy, everyone, so in a club, you're just not going to satisfy everyone. Even if you're high flying, there's always going to be something wrong.
Is it super stressful?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I always remember when I used to go to a match, and literally half an hour before, 15 minutes before, my stomach would just knot up with anticipation. Really? And what's going to happen today? Are we going to lose like 3-0? My opening Premiership game was Arsenal, and we lost 3-0 in the first half, and it was we drew in the second half. So it was just 3-0 towards the end. That was a bit of a baptism of fire. Because
you were worried about the repercussions of,
Yeah, you're always thinking about things, and there's a lot of money involved, and even more so today, even more so.
Yeah. Can I just backtrack just one moment? You mentioned that with the waste business, it was the second largest in the world, and the second time you were talking, it was the largest regionally. Has it always been your intention to build and scale fast and build these big businesses, or has that just evolved? Has it what I'm trying to get to is it something you've always set out to do, or is it just it's evolved as you basically run the businesses? Or both?
I always my sort of mantra is always about working really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I used to work long hours. So the way I looked at it, if I worked 7 days a week and my competitors only worked 5, I was 2 days a week ahead of them, which was over the year was 100 days a year ahead of them. I always wanted to be the best. So, originally it was in Birmingham, I wanted to be the best in Birmingham. After that, it was the best in the West Midlands, then it was the best in the Midlands. And I used to just, sort of revere in that sort of challenge all the time. But again, it was with the waste business I was in at that time. It was, quite a small pond, and I was a pretty big fish in the small ponds, and that's what was that drove me further down the line to want to be the smaller fish in the big pond and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, in answer is it was to just drive on, and my growth as a waste company does not compare to Gymshark, by the way. Gymshark is something super special, and Gymshark is a one-off that we're probably unlikely to see for a long time. But my growth for my businesses on my own, with no capital and etc., was also pretty good.
Wow. So we've got waste management, we've got a period of time in football, and then we've got All Saints. Now, I say All Saints because it's a brand all of us know. It's a really well-known retail brand. How did that opportunity come about? And also, if you could, the second question, explain, that's a completely different industry to what you basically learn your business trade in.
Yeah. So when I, sort of sold in 2000, as I said, I was always got an open mind to anything. And had a friend of mine, still a friend of mine now, a guy called Mick Dunn. And way back in the day, and I knew Mick when I was in my, very early 20s, 20 years old. He'd invested all of his money in a shop in Birmingham. It was with Reese. He was with Reese Menswear, and he was the MD. And he decided to invest all of his savings and all his money into basically a franchise, which is like an unofficial type franchise with All Saints in Birmingham. And he had a one shop in Cannon Street, Birmingham. And he called me one day, literally, frantic, because All Saints, which was owned by a guy called Stuart Trevor, had gone into administration. Problem was that he didn't own the stock. He got the stock, but he hadn't probably paid for it, and therefore the administrator probably would want that back. And Mick was quite distraught in terms of I could sort of lose everything. So we found out who the administrators was, and it was actually someone I knew, and we got in touch with them. And basically, I, from my point of view, was the front for the money, because I had money from the sale of my previous company, to buy All Saints at that time. All Saints at that time was a cult brand. It was pure cult. It had about 8 shops. Stuart Trevor was a really, really talented designer, along with Kate Bolingero, his partner. But I think Stuart would probably admit this himself. In terms of business, it wasn't his forte. It wasn't his thing, but it was for Mick. So what we did was we basically sort of split the business 3 ways, where I would front the money, Mick would run the company as managing director, and Stuart would there to be, I suppose the best word would be creative director.
Yeah.
So it was a sort of perfect alignment, really. We all had, an amount of shares in the business, and away it went. And we sort of took it originally very, very quickly. We took 6 leases off the administrators, and then we started to rebuild it into a more sort of organised brand. And Mick was really, really good, one of the best in the business. And we created All Saints in its infancy as it is today, and I think when I got out, because again, my involvement was literally to do with finance and giving the guys guidance in terms of business strategy and things like that. But designing clothes, what to put where in a shop and what to sell at what price was all to do with the other guys. And we had an offer from the guys who owned Karen Millen and Icelandic guys, and we decided it was the time for me to move out. So I exited very happily. Mick and Stuart carried on. Mick exited a while afterwards, and I'll say 12 months, 18 months, but I'm not 100% sure. And I know Stuart stayed in a little bit longer and exited after that. But then, that's where All Saints is today.
For many people, Paul, built a family business, exited a family business, sold it, rebuilt it, sold it back, and then great time with Birmingham City, what you've just spoken about with All Saints. By that point, wow, okay, you bought the serial entrepreneur t-shirt, I'm sure very happy with the way life has gone. So tell us therefore how the Gymshark opportunity came about, because obviously very, very interesting what you guys have done there.
There was a little bit in between, to be fair. So I got divorced in 2005 and, said goodbye to a share of my money, which was fine. And I went back into the waste business, and whilst I was back in the waste business in a smaller way and starting off again, I was approached by a company called No Waste from the USA. Yep. And they had technology that would recycle nappies. And nappies I'll just use the UK for instance. There's 1.1 million tons of used nappies disposed of in the UK every single year, and virtually all goes to landfill. So, and its majority of it is plastic, and it is a fibre, so it's recyclable. But the technology that they'd got was flawed. So I joined up with those guys, sold off my waste company, small one, and basically we set about changing the technology that they got, because it was a European based technology, to be a UK based technology. And that involved building a plant in West Bromwich over the other side of the Midlands, and building a development plant that cost about £8 million. But in there we basically put processes forward and new processes and developed them that could recycle virtually 99% of a nappy into product. Wow. So that was called No Waste. While I was there,
that's serious innovation.
It's the best process in the world, and we developed. And talking, just going back to big fish, small ponds, etc. When No Waste came along, the thing that I liked was that this was a worldwide problem and no one had solved it.
Yep.
And that, if I got involved, I'd be involved in something worldwide. And within that business, I've travelled to all over the world looking at this, from the States, Canada, Belgium, Holland, Germany, France, Israel, many, many others, and all over the UK, basically developing this process. But the thing I liked was that it was me being that small fish, and I was jumping into a really, really big pond, and not being frightened of that. And along with Roy Brown, who was the CEO and my partner in that business, we became number one and number two, and I was number two. I let him have number one. Authority recycling nappies in the world. So a guy from Birmingham who was a skip driver, lay under trucks, etc. Was quite parochial in Birmingham, never really been very far. All of a sudden I was number two in the world at something which, I would like to be number one, but it was my partner, so we just took it as number one and number two. Really, really exciting times. It's still a technology that was before its time. It will happen. Yep. We'll use that as a prediction on this this podcast. And
everybody.
that nappy recycling will come to the UK and to the Europe, because there's plenty of people who are trying it. We pulled out of the UK. We had a huge impetus in London to do it, and the planners just kept, and the politicians kept pushing us back. So we decided at that point to pull out of the UK. And currently there's things going on in Israel and South Africa to try and put that forward. And then while I was doing that, we closed the plant in West Bromwich, and I moved the offices, and there was only a few of us because we'd done all the development, all the engineers, all the designers. They all needed to go, and it was just a business case. And we moved to just the other side of Bromsgrove, and I lived that direction anyway. So, and I used David Lloyd Gym in Bromsgrove, and that's where I met Ben and Lewis back in late 2013.
So that starts the next chapter now. 2012, the business was officially launched, wasn't it, by Ben and Lewis? Now, 2013 is when you had started to really get involved with the business. Talk to us about how that started to come about.
Yeah, it was. So it wasn't a huge involvement at that time. So I used to see the guys at the gym, and they were sort of, in this little group of cocky young guys at the gym, strutting and flashing their abs and things like that. It's all good. And apparently, according to Ben, and I only found this out a couple of months ago, I was known as the business guy. And they used to ask me questions, just saying, what do we do about this? What do we do about that? Blah, 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 blah. And eventually got to the point where there was just questions all the time. And
you turn up for a workout, and all of a sudden you're getting
yeah, and it was like these young guys sort of, we used to call it pecking our heads, sort of. But they then said to me, look, we need some help, we need to help. And the one turning point of that was Ben came in one day, and at that point they were turning over about 4.5 million, and there was 8 people in their office working. That's all, in the warehouse, etc. They were mainly, relatives and things like that. And there was, Ben and Lewis were the 2 owners, and they were doing everything as well. Everyone did everything, But Ben came to me and he looked terrible. I said, what's going on? And he just said, I haven't slept for sort of 5 days really properly. We've ordered some product from China, from their normal supplier, who they'd never visited their factory. They didn't know where their factory was. They'd never seen these people, but they were ordering, quite a substantial amount of product from them. And he said they haven't delivered. It had actually gone out on their website, and therefore, people were trying to buy it, and they were launching it, and it was all a real mess. And Ben, was in particular was really, really worried. And I just said to him, "You need another option. We need to find you another option." And I had a friend who was bringing in designing and bringing in clothes from Turkey. So Turkey was, a 3-week road journey away. So again, the turnaround was much quicker than coming by boat from China.
Yep.
I said, look, I'll get an introduction. And they came to my office, which was in Bromsgrove, because they had no room. They didn't actually have an office. They just had a warehouse, and it was always a complete mess. And if there was a desk, it was always full of clothes, and you couldn't talk privately or anything. So they used to come to my office for little sort of meetings. And coincidentally, what happened was, guys that I was introducing them to, who were Midlands based but getting this stuff from Turkey, brought a consultant with them. That consultant was Steve Hewitt, our current CEO.
Yeah.
So I'd met Steve in the David Lloyd as well, but I'd never really spoken to him. I didn't know what he did. I used just to see him and say, hi, how you doing? And then, of course I met them. Well, okay, what are you here for? And he was like, well, I'm these guys' consultant, and blah, blah, blah. And when he was talking, I just had a real, he knew what he was talking about. I wasn't there as an advisor from the clothing point of view. I was just there for, to conduit join the dots with, 2 lots of people. So I said, "Just stay behind afterwards." So he stayed behind in the office, and I really got talking to him and found out he was ex-Reebok and he was ex-here, there and everywhere, and massive amount of experience in the industry and the sort of sector. And I then suggested, you need to meet my guys and you need to come and consult for us. So he did, and that's where we started. And at the sort of beginning, I was doing a day a month, he was doing a day a month. Then he moved up to a day a week, and then I moved up to a day a week, and it just got more and more. He became MD quite quickly because obviously it was no good him passing on and me passing on instructions or guidance to Ben and Lewis when actually they didn't really know what to do with it. And that's no fault of their own. It's just that they'd never been in business before. Their parents hadn't, their uncle, their auntie, no one that they knew had been in business. And therefore, Steve and myself, our guidance was their sort of first guidance in business because they learned to trust us, so that's where it started.
And so 2012 and now, and obviously it was in the press recently, it's been everywhere about the billion, is it $1 billion or billion pounds? Billion in terms of the valuation?
The valuation is actually 1,150,000,000. It's actually not a billion. But we had to publicise just above a billion, but it's actually 1.15.
Wow, okay. So that is considerable growth. That is spectacular growth. That's kind of growth that doesn't really exist at the moment. When it does, but in very, very, very small pockets. Now, based on the fact that you had been very used to growth in your own businesses, were you used to this kind of growth all of a sudden being in a very, very senior position, helping to now guide this company through each step in super quick time?
I don't think I know anyone that would ever have been used to it. So we've got a little saying between the three of us is we haven't done bad for three amateurs. But the combination of the three of us, so just to give you some context, and I keep saying three, and obviously before that I was mentioning Lewis Morgan. Lewis decided in September 2016 to exit the business. So, for various reasons, he wasn't aligned with what we were doing and he wanted to do other things. So, we had an amicable arrangement where he exited the business but remained a shareholder. So I always, now, since that time, we always talked about the three of us. And it worked really, really well because there was three lots of skill sets. There was myself with a business sort of strategy type brain and used to the long game and, strategic sort of planning and thinking. And not afraid to ask a question, not afraid to throw my sort of 10 pence worth in. Can be quite blunt at times. Steve, who obviously had great experience in the sort of fitness retailing industry, and a great brain for business in terms of all the detail, the minutiae, the commercial side of the business. There is no one I know that's better. And then you had Ben, which is, he had the vision he knows what he wants. He's always known what he wanted. And that laser vision for him has enabled us then, as a three, we never came out of a meeting where we hadn't decided something. Because even if two of us wanted something and one of us didn't, it was always on the two. It didn't matter how much shareholding you got, it was a single sort of vote. And usually by the time, if you went in thinking, I don't like what these two are saying, by the end of it, you go, yeah, fine, okay, best idea wins. Crack on. And we've never had a falling out, we've never had crosswords in terms of decision. We've had plenty of challenges, a lot of challenges, and both up and down, from Ben to us and us to Ben and me to Ben and me to Steve. We've had plenty of challenges because that's the nature of our business.
We were having a chat yesterday, just obviously before this, you mentioned two key words that have been integral to that special relationship: trust and transparency. So obviously, trust, we know what that means, and it'd be good to hear how you created such trust between you. But transparency, does that mean that people say exactly how it is in the meetings you have? You know, people don't hold back. If it's in your mind, you say it. It'd be good to get your kind of real understanding of what you mean by trust and transparency.
Yeah. I mean, the transparency side. I mean, a lot of that comes from, I'd say, from Steve in particular.
Yeah.
You know, he's built in such a way that's allowed us, and he's built the sort of financials of the business that's allowed us to share good and bad news, no matter what, right, and to share that with the entire business rather than just with the chiefs or the directors, and then everyone else has to sort of get filtered down information. And that was all from Steve, the way he wanted to do it. I think, you know, for myself and Ben as well, his sort of he wants himself to be accessible to everyone. You know, he doesn't want it to be that he's the founder of this company and you can't get to him. You know, he is accessible at all times, and you know what you see is what you get. So we've developed that within the business, that everyone, as I say, that you know, the best idea wins is actually one of our sort of mantras here. Doesn't matter if you're a you know, the CEO or you're an exec. You know, some of our best sort of projects or best sort of grand sort of ideas have come from an exec who's in touch and on the ground and in touch with the demographic, rather than you know a 40-year-old commercial director or something like that. So again, it's transparent. I mean, yeah, there are always some things in the business that you have to wait till the business is mature enough to be totally transparent, and that's probably on salaries and things like that. But majority of things in this business transparent. Yeah. So again, in terms of everyone being equal, you know, we have more than one car park here at HQ. One's down the road. It's a 50-yard walk. If a car park is full, you know, the CEO or myself or the director does not get a special space. You know, you've got to park down the road and you've got to walk, whether it's raining or snowing. You know, you can't come up here and kick someone out. That's just the way it is, and it's the way we've always done that from the start. When we were, you know, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, to now when we're 500 plus, it's the same philosophy. You know, it's as equal as you can be within the business.
So, two things that I'd really like to focus with regards to the brand itself. Now, it's very striking, the t-shirt, Gymshark, you know, written across. It's got just something about it that is, you know, it's a hard word to work out how you describe it, but it's just magic what you guys have created with this brand. How have you really built this brand? Is there anything that you can point to which has been instrumental in helping Gymshark to become this incredible business and brand that it is?
I think Ben Francis's vision is probably the one thing, because he just knows what he wants, and he is the consumer. So the way he looks at it, if he really likes it, then it's what we should be doing. So the business is built upon brand first. You know, if you look after the brand, you will have customers. The consumer will come. So it's always been about the brand and protecting the brand, and not doing things for the wrong reason. So it's just as a for instance, you know, our turnover this last year was about 265 million. We could probably be in the 600-700 million easy if we sold sort of wholesale to people like JD Sports or, you know, Dick's Sporting Goods in the USA, because we get asked all the time. Right. But the reason we don't is that we want to maintain the data. We want the data from the consumer, and if we go through a third party, you lose your data. You also can't control who's purchasing it so well, because you're not targeting. You don't know who you're targeting. But for us, the data is key, and we have a huge data team now of around 40 people here, and we're just expanding it dramatically, because we want to know everything about that consumer, so that we can think almost before the consumer thinks themselves of what they might want. And as a for instance, if you combine the data from their purchasing or their views on Instagram or all that sort of stuff. Combine that with the app that we've got. So we know that Ben, likes to have black tracky bottoms. He likes a black vest with, the big writing on. He doesn't like the small writing. We also deadlifts on a Thursday and a Friday, and he trains chest on a Monday. So for the deadlifting, we can target him with chalk, straps, lifting shoes, whatever we want to do. Any of the things that they would want. And that means we've got extra information to sort of, and when you gel it all together and you merge it together, it's far more powerful than just someone comes to your shop, they take away your, whatever they buy from you, the tracky bottoms and the vest, and then you don't see them again, you don't know who they are.
Right, so it's the intimacy at which you get to know the ins and outs and the absolute, what they love and what they don't love, is the absolute key to building up that true knowledge of your consumer.
And it's listening to them as well, constantly listening to the consumer and seeing what they want and how they want it, the sort of journey that they get when they get it delivered. Our customer service guys are one of the most important parts of the business, because they're getting the things that that the consumer doesn't like, so then we can put it right. But we want to know, I think one of our things is we want to know the customer better than anyone else in the world, and that way we can treat them how they want to be treated, and that's our aim.
You can tell it's completely in the culture. I mean, setting up this interview with you, everybody we've dealt with, Harriet, who is Ben's secretary, just amazing how polite and friendly, and can't do enough to help you. You can just see that it's completely ingrained into the culture, that everybody just is trying to help everybody as much as they can. It's clearly a big thing you've got.
Yeah, we've got, we have a lot of interaction with our consumers. The pop-ups we do, we get people come along and say, you've changed our life. You've changed my life. You've changed everything. I was suicidal. I was depressed. I was this. I was, from a background or whatever. And, I found Gymshark and you took me under your wing. And it's like, I remember talking to Ben in my office in Bromsgrove, and he said something one day, and I said, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I want to change people's lives. And I mocked him. I honestly, I'll say this, I said, you're not Gandhi. You're not Martin Luther King. How are you going to do that? Because I couldn't see that at that time. But now I see it, because we do. But that was his vision. And in essence, even though I was older, my naivety in not understanding what he meant. And, that's, I think we spoke yesterday about something which I think is crucial within Gymshark. One of the main reasons for success in terms of the business side is the ability for having, blending the energy and enthusiasm of a younger person with the experience and the expertise of someone older. Say like yourself. But the only way you can do that is having that trust and respect going backwards and forwards. I can't just come into this business and just because I've been around the block a few times and I've had All Saints, so I must know what I'm talking about. You'll just listen to me and that's it, and I say the right thing. It doesn't work. If I've learned so much off these young people at Gymshark, ranging from people like Noel Mack, who's Chief Brand Officer, Niran Chana, Chief Commercial Officer, right down to execs in the business that I talk to in all the different parts of the business, our trainers that we've got. You just learn something new all the time. So if you give them the respect that they deserve, they'll give you the respect that you deserve. And if you get that going as a two-way street with the two things, it's gold dust. It's really cool.
Coming back to that growth, you said, we could be 600-700, as opposed to the 250, whatever Mark you said, with million turnover revenue. Has it been hard sometimes because everyone's always talking about growth and it's the word, super growth, fast growth, growing. Has that been difficult at times to turn down those opportunities, or not, because your laser focus is on maintaining that relationship direct with the consumer?
It's not been difficult because we are 100% focused. Again, another thing that we talk about is, sometimes it's not what you do, it's actually what you don't do. So, we've had so many businesses offered to us that we could have done, ranging from hair products to jeans to,
Right.
I don't know, fitness equipment, opening gyms, doing, whatever you can think of that we've had offered to us. And we literally think we haven't got enough time to do what we're doing now. Yeah. So let's keep doing what we're doing as best we can. And we think we do that pretty well, rather than get tied up in other things that would sidetrack us from providing our consumer with the best experience they can possibly have. Yeah. And that's what we've done. So yeah, it is difficult because sometimes you're thinking, we should have a look at that, and the entrepreneur in you goes, we're missing a trick. But I think what I've learned from Ben is that laser focus. Yes. Eye on the prize. And the difference here is we have a market within our sector that is exponentially huge. So even though, we are, half of our sales are in the States, in terms of the marketplace, it's like this. So if we grow it to that, we're at 1 billion before we've even blinked. So, why would we want to go and do hair products or, I don't know, something else, when we can do what we do better and go to there? And it just seems such a good thing, and that's where Ben keeps people laser focused on his views.
So I mentioned two things that I'd like to talk about with you today, Paul. And the second thing is the office space. And I know that's something that you have, had a big part to play in. And you come to your head offices in Solihull, and they're beautiful on the eye, super slick. They look fantastic. It really brings that extra tangibility to the brand. So it'd be really interesting to know from you the process of how you begin to design the offices. And the second part of that is how it's been affected as well, the use of your office space, obviously with recent events of the pandemic.
So when we were in Redditch, so they moved the guys from Bromsgrove. So, before I moved from Bromsgrove, they literally had one small office, and got them 2 porta cabins. I told them we were ordering one because they didn't want to splash out on 2. So they initially had porta cabins. We then moved to Redditch and moved to this nice office, and never thought we'd outgrow it for many a year. And within 12 months, we had to get another one. And we were getting towards about 150 people when we decided we need to move again. So I found this office, which is GSHQ as we call it now, which was, we were in 11,000 square feet before, and this was 42,000 square feet. So a little bit of a jump. And if you could just imagine the three of us, I'd already seen this building, and I knew what we wanted it. I knew it was the right thing to do. But we're walking up, and you've got the 3 different characters, myself, Steve, and Ben. Steve is super cautious, and he's sort of saying, "Oh my God, there's no effing way we can afford this. Oh my God." Ben and I are completely different. Ben saying, "I really want this," and I just say to Ben, "Yeah, I'm going to get it for you. Don't worry." So we sort of went on that journey of this huge building. And the thing is, with my role, especially in the past, I'm not a day-to-day guy. I'm not anything in the day-to-day. So the sales number, the commercial, the brand, anything else, that's not me. All of my work was to do with nothing that was day-to-day. So I sort of managed the process with Lewis of exiting him from the business. I did lots of other things in terms of insurance and getting the right lawyers and all the stuff that's peripheral and building sort of foundations. So when we wanted to take this office on, I just put a team together that I knew. So I put a team of people I knew were experienced at doing it and could help me. And we then coupled up with a company called Octra, who we're still with today. They're a design and build specialist. But the main reason for having this building was, the main reasons for having it was a couple of things. Is we wanted to announce that we were here and we're here to stay. We weren't just a procure Bromsgrove brand. Ben once said to me when I asked him, what do you want to do with this brand? Do you want it as a lifestyle? He said, no, I want to be as big as Under Armour. And at that time, I thought, nah, you're not going to do that, but we'll have a good go. But that is more than on the cards now. I can tell you that for nothing. It won't be Under Armour up. And we needed to from the staff point of view, we needed top people, because we had lots of local people. We maybe had the odd person from Manchester or the odd person from London, but really we were a very local business from the employment point of view, and we needed to attract international people. So this was one of the ways of doing that. And, we went into this with, we're not going to do this by halves. So what do we want this to look like? So we looked at doing this with Octra. It took quite a long process initially. And the look we wanted, we based it around our products and colours. So we had a lot of greys, a lot of blacks, a lot of whites. So that was the sort of starting point of where we sort of went. And again, it was around natural things. So real concrete or real wood, or something that was actually, it was more about being real. And that's, another thing that we like to do. We don't like fakes. So we stick away from some imitation wood or some imitation concrete. And then we built HQ, and we walked in here with 150 people. On day one, we all rambled around, sort of wondering what the hell we'd done and why had we done this. And, everyone was sort of like, oh my God, look at the amount of room we've got. And then not long afterwards, we were just changing things all the time because we were running out of space in certain areas. Yeah. And then from there on, we took on GSLC, which is the lifting club. But within the lifting club, which obviously is a gym, the best gym in the world, by the way. Upstairs is the rest of the building is the brand area. So that's got studios in. It's got studios for e-commerce. It's got film studios. It's got app studios. It's got a small factory in where we produce seamless products for R&D. And it's got an auditorium for 100 people with like at the town hall. So, we can do a lot of big meetings there. And again, it's signature. It's the same. But again, every building we do. So we did Hong Kong as well in between that. So we built one in Hong Kong. That was 8,000 square foot building. We did the same, and it looks just like here. It looks just like here. So
wow. And when you go to the offices, you can tell you've got a lot of young people that work at Gymshark. Now, when you develop a space in terms of how people work together, what have you found in terms of the way young people, let's call them Gen Z, that's what they're often called, how Gen Z kind of work and operate? What are the key things that you have to bear in mind?
And as you well know, because we've discussed it, millennials and Gen Zers are quite different. So we've got some challenges that we've developed office space, and we do it collaboratively. So when we started the process here, we didn't just say, okay, this is what we think you want. We went to all the guys and we went round and round with them, and we discussed what they wanted and what they needed. And we had some weird stuff. We want a shark tank. We want a sea view. We want a puppy petting area, all that sort of tongue-in-cheek stuff. But we had a lot of good information from them, so they felt part of what we were building. So we developed it as along, and we didn't get it all right. We 100% didn't get it all right, and that's some of the things we built for them, and maybe some of the things the ideas we put forward. But we're always willing to adapt, and we're always willing to move on. But it was collaborative, and what we've tried to create is a unique atmosphere of something that is serious. We're serious business people. We want to turn over lots of money and etc. But also we're here to enjoy ourselves. If you're in a business 8 hours a day and you're in an office 8 hours a day, the last thing you want is to can't wait to get out at night. And what I will say is when you drive up to this place, people's faces start to smile, and they'll say that. And, it's hard for them to go sometimes. And the atmosphere ranging from, we had sleep pods brought in. We bought 2 sleep pods so people doing long hours, could grab a nap in a sleep pod. We have a full restaurant. It isn't a little cafeteria with, two options. These guys are chefs that work here, and we've got 5 of them.
Wow.
So the offering we give is wide. We have, baristas, 2 baristas. So the guy, this place runs on coffee. They're charged with imitating. So we have them imitate Nando's, we have them imitate McDonald's, we have them imitate Burger King, and to try and keep, they do all sorts of stuff, as well as lots of healthy food. But it is, it's there to be enjoyed, and so is the place. And there's places to go and hide away and work on your own, and there's also collaborative spaces throughout the place that are all very different.
And developing your Denver office, has the pandemic changed plans in any great way?
Yeah. Well, the pandemic's changed, obviously, literally everything that we do, So picking up on what you said earlier, we've had to adapt what we've currently got, and we've had to adapt the process. So with Denver, I've literally went with the head designer, Sean, from Optra. We flew to Denver. In 3 days, we picked the building, we picked the contractors, we picked the project manager, and we picked the architect. We came back, and then we set in designing it, and then we haven't been back since, because we can't.
Right.
So we'll be opening early November.
Okay.
Had a meeting this morning to see where we are on it, but we're going to have to open it, and we're going to have to do all the work will have been done remotely from here into that office there, with no one of our own on that ground at this point. So it's going to be tough. We're hoping we'd put 5 trips in there to do the job. There's 5 trips that we would have gone out and back, and probably someone would have stayed for the whole of the last month, but obviously we can't because of COVID conditions. And again, with COVID, we set about doing Denver pre-COVID. Then as COVID started to take a grip, we realized we needed to change the design, because when we come out of COVID, working will be different. I mean, I think that what COVID has done for home working is it's advanced us about 3 years or so. Right. I think what we're going to do will have come, but it would have took us 3 or 4 years to get there. Right. It's advanced us in terms of people being allowed to work from home, being trusted to work from home, it being the right thing to do, and also to get their balance in life as well. This doesn't suit everyone. We're going through a whole process now. The offices we're in now, we have currently about 100 people a day in out of the 400, so about 25%, but they are completely safe. So we've done the COVID precautions, and we could have about 170 people in the building, but we're sticking at about 100, 120, because that gives us plenty of leeway and safety, stuff like that.
Well, I've got those are the 2 questions that I wanted to specifically ask about the business. I've got a personal question now for you, Paul. You're 61, and when you told me that, I was like, wow, boy's looking good. Very, very good. Very, very good indeed. You look after yourself. I understand you enjoy powerlifting. How has, and I guess this is really on point at the moment, especially with the pandemic, and a lot of people are really trying to, because they've got more time maybe to do more fitness and what have you, but it's been a big part of your life, hasn't it? And part of your business life, because it's really helped you to operate at the best you can be. Has it always been a big part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lifter, I like lifting heavy, so I deadlift, or have deadlifted and can deadlift 250 kilos, which is, for a 6-year-old, it's pretty cool. I like lifting heavy. I like lifting. It's what I do. But also, I admire anyone who does whatever they do. So if they're a CrossFitter, or they're a cyclist, or a runner, or play golf, whatever anyone wants to do, for me, it's all fine. Just don't try and tell me to play golf, or don't try and tell me to run, and I'll be fine with you. But it's great for people to do things, and I know for me in particular, it's been a huge part of my well-being, and I don't just treat it as that. I've got some guns, or I can lift heavy or whatever it might be, or whatever. It's also mental. And my mental well-being is based around my lifting as well, because I know that I can have the most stressful day in GSHQ, and the last 11 months going through the investment process was extremely stressful, because you're running a business at the same time and etc. But I would rock down to LC lifting club and train, and the world, when I come out that door again, the world's okay. It's fine again. The endorphins have kicked in and I'm feeling good. And for me with lifting, and I've done a bit of bodybuilding as well. So, back in the day, the focus and the sort of regime that you go through, and how you do things with your food and your training and everything else is great for mindset for business.
Yes.
One of my sort of sayings is again, you can try and lift, you can, I'm at 230, so I go for 235 and I fail. So am I going to give up? No, I'm going to go back again. It might not be that day, it might be the following day, or it might be the following week, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to try and lift 235 again, and I'm going to lift it. And that sort of is my way of sort of saying that if you get knocked down 10 times, get up the 11th. You get knocked down 11th, you just get up 12. And, in life, you will come across all sorts of things that will knock you down for whatever reason. And different people have got different levels of ability or different levels of resilience. But you'll all get knocked down for whatever reason. As long as you keep getting back up, that's the main thing. And that's with business. I've had knockdowns in my life. And, some of my closest friends know what some of mine are. And, you can have failures, and you've got to get back up again and carry on. And lifting does that for me. And particularly mentally, it's really, really important for me. And I think, if the NHS could get a grip of it, in terms of, instead of giving people tablets for, things very easily, if somehow it could be that, I know if you speak to a GP, if you went to them and they were, able to do it, they'd say, get some sleep, and good sleep, get a good diet, and get some exercise, and then come back in 3 months to still tell me then if you feel as bad as you did, and you probably won't. So.
And I think that hearing that when we were chatting, the other day, really inspired me to make it almost your non-negotiable. You said you were going through a massive investment, plus running the day-to-day side of the business, but you still made that happen. So I've taken that on board. It's your non-negotiable. It appears to me that's what it is with you, anyway.
It is, and it is a lot of the guys here, and they all do different things. I mean, at times through the process, some of our guys were under immense pressure. And these guys are 27, 28. They've never done it before. And, we because, to be fair, we'd never done it to this size. I've done a much smaller raise. But again, this was new to me, so it was difficult for us to really prepare them. But hopefully, they would tell you that we were there by their side. We were helping them, doing our best and making sure that they were okay. And, they'll remember this for a long, long time. And it means that, when we do another one, when we go to an IPO, they'll be far more resilient and far more used to what we've just done.
Yeah. Well, Paul, it's been so fantastic talking to you. Absolutely loved it. We've covered a lot. We've heard a lot about, I guess, the key lessons from your own entrepreneurial journey, to then really understanding in terms of the brand and talking about how you've created this amazing kind of vibe in the place to run your own personal regime. Really appreciated the time you've given us today. I know you guys are immensely busy. So, from all of us at HUBCP, thanks so much for your time. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. Can't wait to see what's going to be happening in the future with your brand. I have a feeling it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, it's going to be a bumpy ride, that's for sure. We sort of say we're actually only just getting started. Yeah. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline. And as usual, sometimes we need to take a breath and look at it, but we don't have time. So we just...
Paul, thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking to you, and wish you guys all the best. So thanks so much.
Thanks, John. It's been a fantastic opportunity. Thank you.